Welcome back to New's Bonsai. I just want to start off by wishing you all a happy new year. Got a cool little project to show you today. Just want to use up some Norway spruces which I've kind of had donated to me, or I've inherited if you like. Originally, I'd had a little bit of banter with Tony. Most of you will be familiar with Tony from Tony's Bonsai, of course. And he had a plant delivery, and one of the substitutes in there was a scruffy old Norway spruce, I think for a nice cedar or something, so probably not the fairest substitute. But anyway, he thought it was funny. And then I actually got lumbered with a handful of spruces, and he kind of suggested I should maybe mimic his interpretation of a Bonsai Q video. And I was initially going to, but as I've kind of thought about it, and I did explain to him as well, I've got a number of trees very similar to that already, maybe not a spruce as such, but I've got a grand fir here, very similar in that style, with the twist low down and quite extreme. So that's quite interesting anyway. I've only got one of those now. And I've got some Scots pines here, which some of you may have seen in another video I did. These are tiny little, maybe 2-3 year old seedlings now, and they've got some really good, let's get this one out of the pot if we can. And you can see there some really nice little twists in that one as well. So because I have an absolute glut of trees in that style already, and I'm sure he can sympathise with looking after all these things. You don't want too many of the same thing. And there's a Monterey pine there as well. This is a 3-needle pine, quite interesting. Does have big needles though, so we'll see how these get on, but there's a really nice bend there. Comes up, down and around. So instead of doing 5 individual twisty trees, I thought we'll have a go at doing maybe an actual a clump with these. Not a forest, but we'll actually mesh them all together, give them another year and see if we can get a nice like clump style bonsai out of it. They're not really much thicker, well probably half as thick as a pencil. Got some good mycelium in with these. Now, I'm not going to be too brutal to these. I just want to at least get one side clear for now, where we're going to mesh them together. I've got this little piece of bent over copper wire here, and we'll just tease all this to one side. So we're looking for where the tree starts, or the root base starts, sorry. And then we're looking to be able to get these a little bit closer together. And Norway spruce, believe it or not, they're really quite resilient to some root work. And just get them in a well-drained kind of rich organic mix, they seem to thrive. So we're just getting down to it now. Just looking for where the bulk of those roots begin. Although I've never aerated a Norway spruce because they're obviously cheap enough and abundant enough not to really worry about things like that. If you do overfill the pots with soil, as you can see from here, they do root up the trunk at a young age a bit there. It's always promising for pushing out new roots and getting a nice radial berry. So obviously with this tree here, this is leaning in and we've got less on this side, so that's going to be a really good side to put this one together on. That's that one done. So I'm just going to repeat these now and get this to a good level. Right, so we've got them all kind of unpicked for now a little bit, as it were, the root balls. And they've all got a good side that we're going to use there to kind of mesh them together with. Obviously the closer they can be and more natural with the bends working, the better. You don't want to be fighting a little kink in it and trying to push that into it. I'm just going to run down them here, and where we've got extra roots, where they've been buried deeper than they need to be, I'll just take them off, you see, so it's all clean. I'll leave that little bit in there. You see that one's clean down to there, and there's a nice piece to use there to mesh together. Just look down this one as well, so there's another good example of a root there that can go. And there's one there hiding there, tight against the trunk, so we'll take that out. It's a little bit noduly there, but with these meshing together it might hide in there all right. And again, that's your side there to put together for that one. Right, so to join these up, and it probably is worth noting as well, they're not too bad, but you may well have to take out a few buds and things on the way down, just so it's not sandwiched together. Some of these needles might roll off quite nicely. These back bud really well, so I wouldn't worry too much about losing young buds here. Right, and then to mash them together to form our clump style, like I say, we want to select the backs of the trees that we've got and start just sitting them together where you can get a little bit of contact on them. So those two go quite well there. I'm going to put this big one in the middle because he seems like the most dominant one. It makes sense to put it there. This one, if you can see, it seems to be an obvious place to sneak it in there. And we're looking to keep all these Nibiris level. See how that's already working quite nice. And we've got this little small one here. And I think you see the curve at the back there. We'll try and get that into this area. So I'm going to open that out a little bit and see if we can get that actually to slot in there. There we go. So you see how all the curves are pretty much working for us. That one's a little bit bendy there, but I don't think we'll change it because of the root mass. And you see again, the roots look like they're all working together. So I'm quite happy with that. Right, now to simply join this up, you can use numerous methods with this, but I think this is probably going to be the easiest one, straightforward, and no matter what you use, a little clipping, a wire or anything, you're going to end up wasting it in the long run. So one cable tie isn't too bad, although I don't like wasting plastic things. I'm going to use a little bit of pond liner here, and I'm going to pull these together with it. Winding them roots, keep those out of the way. So I'm doing a bit of the work here with this already. So there's our first thing. You can see they're quite nicely mashed together already there. The roots look like they're working as one. So what we'll do now, we'll simply pop a cable tie around there at a lower point as well, because I do want to apply the pressure at the lower points there. Again, this is a job where you'll want 4 hands, but you'll have to make do with 2. Now I'm keeping that liner tucked in that I cut there. Keep that pulled up, make sure the cable tie is covering it all. I've tied it off with itself at the top. And I'm going to gently pull those. Good, now I don't want to slide the cable tie around the tree, wrenching it up. Just cup it with your fingers there and pull it tight, and that will do. I'm going to reuse a little bit of the old soil that these came in for the simple reason it was full of mycelium. And you can see out of those 5 trees there, we've unpicked them. A lot of that soil really because it's wet. We haven't lost much root, so I've got no doubt that they'll be fine. So we're going to use a little piece of that, a little bit of that in there with there. I've got some new multi-purpose there. It's quite a quite a mulchy one really, but I can actually see these Norway spruce really liking it. So we'll say we'll keep half of what we've got there and pop this other half to one side. I've seen it's pest free as well, there's no horrible weevils or anything in there. So we'll get that mixed up, and just for good measure I'm going to add maybe say 25% of well washed sharp sand, just to give it a little bit more drainage and aeration. Some fine grits in there as well. So and you can see that's quite a nice mix, nice and open. And there is some moisture in that, and you see it's still falling apart. Now we're going to flip it upside down and just carefully comb these areas out. You don't want a massive roots just sitting there on top of each other. You can see already there. I just use my bonsai rake, a little piece of bent up wire. I find it's absolutely ample. I don't like tearing at roots with the rakes anyway. So there's that. That's nice and radial. And you can see there from just meshing them 5 together and carefully selecting the areas we put it together. Look at that Naberi in the making there. So I might just chop a few of these longer fine ones off because there's plenty there. Again, they do better spread out and not just piled on top of each other. Just going to bring a little bit of that in just to project it a little bit. And again, we'll go back to our little rake here. Just fan them out. So the roots do much better individually spaced out, kind of acting as they would. I tell you what, that looks very reasonable for what we've just done to it. And again, to save on chopsticking and knocking about, if you just kind of sieve the soil over it, it normally finds most of them spaces on its own, especially when you spread the roots out as nice as we have. I'm just going to fan that out a little bit now. Now our wires probably aren't going to do much, but they'll just hold it down. A couple of little taps. I think we can call that done. Now that will need to sit there for a good growing season, you know, the rest of the year. I will keep an eye on it. If I see these swelling up dramatically, you know, I might loosen off that cable tie a little bit and replace it. That's where I could have left a tag on it actually and adjusted that. There's a nice little trick of actually reusing those if you want to. Not that we're penny pinching at that level, it's more the planet I'm concerned about. But yeah, I think that's a really good good start there of a clump style bonsai. And because I haven't got one, you know, finished and done as such that we've had the time on, I'll just give you an idea of, you know, the effect we're aiming for at the bottom there. If we go back to this other spruce I've showed you in other videos, this here is what we'll be looking for. So a nice trunk at the bottom, flaring out, and then multiple stems. Obviously these will all be straight and uniform, so we'll have a, you know, an easier ride kind of creating something out of it, where this was mostly set in stone and I've clipped out, you know, bits I didn't want after years of growth. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that one and come back to follow it up. Like I say, we'll come back and look at it, but we won't really be going in there for another year or so. I'm just gonna let it grow on and kind of bulk up now. So like I say, hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed it, if you could give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done. Thank you.